The most threatening person to a narcissist isn't someone who fights back with anger or revenge. It's the empath who's finally had enough. Carl Jung once said that the greatest weapon against a narcissist isn't fury, it's clarity. And when an empath reaches that moment of clarity, something profound happens, a quiet inner shift that tears down the narcissist's illusion of power. Narcissists feed off drama, emotional chaos, and control. But what truly unsettles them is the calm detachment of an empath who no longer reacts. This isn't just about walking away. It's about taking back one's identity from the grip of manipulation. According to Jung, this moment of awakening is the narcissist's worst fear, because it reveals the hollow truth behind their carefully crafted mask. Carl Jung, the legendary psychoanalyst and founder of analytical psychology, uncovered a deep psychological struggle that often goes unnoticed, yet silently plays out in countless lives. The intricate dance between narcissists and empaths. This isn't just a tug of war over control. It's a collision between two opposing inner worlds. Narcissists, driven by hidden insecurity and disguised with a facade of superiority, stand in stark contrast to empaths, who are guided by compassion, connection, and a deep urge to heal. Jung noticed something powerful. Narcissists aren't shaken by anger. They expect it. They know how to twist it. But what truly unravels them is the moment an empath stops reacting and starts seeing clearly. That's when the spell breaks. Because in that silence, the narcissist's grip begins to fade, and their control starts to crumble. Jung found that the most powerful blow to a narcissist doesn't come from the outside. It begins deep within the empath's own mind. It's a subtle yet transformative shift that suddenly renders the narcissist's entire strategy ineffective. He observed that empaths have a rare gift, the ability to feel what others can't articulate. They tune into emotional undercurrents others miss, unspoken pain, hidden motives, silent distress. This sensitivity makes them incredibly intuitive but also vulnerable, because those who manipulate through emotion see empaths as easy targets, people who give endlessly, ask for little, and instinctively try to heal what's broken. Narcissists are drawn to that light. But here's the twist: the empath's greatest strength, their limitless compassion, becomes their most powerful weapon the moment they start turning it inward. Jung's insights reveal that the empath's path isn't merely about breaking free from a toxic bond. It's about reclaiming emotional autonomy. The moment an empath stops trying to fix, soothe, or make sense of the narcissist's chaos, something powerful unfolds. The narcissist is suddenly stripped of their favorite tool, manipulation, and without it, their carefully crafted image begins to unravel. Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But what if that reaction is poisonous? What if one personality doesn't seek connection, but control? The dynamic between a narcissist and an empath is a collision of opposing forces. One takes to survive, while the other is wired to give. On the surface, it may look like balance, but underneath lies a deep and dangerous imbalance. The narcissist feeds on praise and attention, and the empath, conditioned to nurture, keeps providing it, often at the cost of themselves. But Jung's most profound realization was this: this dynamic can't last forever. Eventually, the empath's energy runs low, their spirit worn thin, and a moment of reckoning begins to take shape. The very instant the empath starts to question the relationship, to wonder, is this love or control, the narcissist's power begins to slip. Jung saw this as the critical turning point, the moment when the narcissist senses their influence fading, often before the empath is even fully aware of the shift. In the beginning, it may seem like a perfect match. The narcissist seeks admiration and constant affirmation. The empath is built to listen, to soothe, to heal. But this apparent harmony hides a deeper truth. What looks like balance is actually a growing imbalance. Because the narcissist isn't offering real connection, they're offering a performance, a well-rehearsed act designed to extract attention, not share it. They mirror the empath's hopes, reflect their deepest needs, not out of love, but to keep them emotionally invested. All the while, the empath, driven by their deep-rooted compassion, continues to hold on to hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, the narcissist can change. Jung's work makes it clear. This hope isn't foolishness. It's a reflection of the empath's emotional depth and unwavering heart. But ironically, it's also their most exploitable trait. And the narcissist knows it. They use it again and again, because it keeps working, until one day it doesn't. When the empath finally pierces through the illusion, something irreversible happens. Jung pointed to a painful psychological trap, one that keeps empaths tethered to narcissists for far too long. It's not just about love or loyalty. It's about a subconscious urge to prove their own worth. Escaping this cycle means facing an uncomfortable truth. that staying wasn't only about saving the other person, it was also about trying to validate themselves. Jung noted that what keeps the empath stuck isn't ignorance, it's belief. Belief in healing, in redemption, in the idea that love can reach the places pain has buried. The empath clings to the hope that there's a hidden wound they can soothe, that if they just love deeply enough, the narcissist will finally be whole. But Jung's most piercing insight: there is no hidden wound behind the mask. Because for the narcissist the mask is the person, the persona. The mask the narcissist wears isn't hiding a wounded inner self. It is the self. There's no deeper, authentic core waiting to be discovered, just layers of calculated performance built to manipulate and control. This is the truth that ultimately liberates the empath. Jung uncovered a chilling insight. Narcissists don't fear rejection or even abandonment as much as they fear one thing above all: irrelevance. That's the trigger that shifts the power. The moment an empath no longer reacts, no longer fuels the emotional drama, the narcissist is plunged into a psychological void. They don't fear being hated, they fear being unseen. Emotional reactions are their lifeline, proof that they still matter, still hold power. But when the empath becomes still, detached, unmoved, the narcissist begins to unravel. This awakening doesn't happen all at once. It starts with tiny cracks in the illusion, a lie that serves no purpose, a cold silence where comfort should be, a lack of empathy when it's needed most. Jung observed that these subtle fractures add up, piece by piece. They form a quiet trail of truth. Eventually, the empath can no longer ignore the evidence. They begin to question the entire foundation of the relationship. As Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. For the empath, awakening means facing a painful truth. What they once mistook for love was actually control. Jung outlined a profound psychological evolution, one that unfolds in 3 distinct stages. And these stages are what make an awakened empath truly dangerous to a narcissist, because once they've passed through them, they can no longer be manipulated. The first shift is emotional detachment, not numbness, but a deep internal realignment. It's the moment the empath stops participating in the narcissist's carefully crafted world. This isn't just the end of a toxic relationship, it's the unraveling of a lifelong pattern of self-abandonment. Jung understood that narcissists do more than just manipulate emotions, they mold identity. They build an environment where the empath constantly questions their own worth. To break free, narcissists need someone to react, someone to provoke. But when the empath stops responding, the narcissist is thrown into disarray. Because this silence isn't weakness, it's defiance. It says loud and clear, you no longer have access to me. The narcissist may try to reel them back in, through guilt, charm, or false promises, but this time, the empath stands their ground because they've learned that closure doesn't come from the narcissist, it comes from within. And then comes the third, and most powerful, transformation, the reclaiming of one's true voice. Not reactive, not desperate, but calm, grounded, and unmistakably clear. This voice speaks the truth without needing approval. It names things as they are, without fear. Jung understood the ancient power of naming, because to name something is to reclaim the story and the self. When the empath begins to thrive, they reveal the ultimate truth. The narcissist was never their source of light. They were only standing in the way of it. In the end, Jung saw clearly, the most dangerous person to a narcissist is the empath, who has fully returned to themselves, because their very presence proves that manipulation has limits, and that is the final victory. Your boundaries, they are the architecture of your freedom. Thank you for being part of this journey. If this message resonated, consider subscribing and sharing. It just might help someone else reclaim their power, too.